The Eileanmore Lighthouse stands alone, far out on a small rocky island off Scotland's wild west coast. This lighthouse is one of the loneliest places you can imagine. The island itself is cold, rugged, and bare just, jagged cliffs, battered constantly by the cold Atlantic Ocean and endless wind. No trees, no grass, no animals, it's just rock and sea. It's the kind of place where you feel the weight of isolation pressing down on you, where silence isn't peaceful, it's heavy, almost suffocating. In December of 1900, 3 men stationed at this very lighthouse simply disappeared. Their names were Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur. All experienced lighthouse keepers, men used to hardship and loneliness. Men who were trained for the isolation and the dangers of the sea. Yet, somehow, during one cold and stormy week, they vanished without a trace. Life for those men was never easy. Living in cramped quarters with no company except each other, they faced brutal storms that could last days or even weeks. The sea's roar was constant, and the wind whipped through every crack and crevice. Every day they climbed the narrow spiral stairs to the lantern room, assuring the light stayed lit through the darkest nights to warn ships away from the deadly rocks below. Despite the harshness, these men were professionals. They knew their duties. They had no reason to leave the lighthouse unless absolutely necessary. They sent a routine telegram back to the mainland. They said everything was fine. Weather was rough, but the lighthouse was holding up. No cause for concern. But when the relief crew arrived 6 days later, everything had changed. No one answered their calls. The door was unlocked. The lighthouse was a mess. Chairs overturned. The beds untouched. Yet there were no signs of the men anywhere. No footprints leading away. No bodies washed ashore. Nothing. Inside, the rescuers found a clock stopped at exactly 1:30. Oilskins, those heavy, waterproof coats the men wore during storms, were missing from the rack. It looked as if they had left suddenly, rushing into the storm outside. But how could 3 strong, experienced men disappear on such a small island in the middle of winter? No one knows for sure. Over the years, people have come up with many ideas about what happened. The most likely theory is that the men were swept away by a massive wave. The Atlantic here is known for sudden rogue waves, towering walls of water that can crash over cliffs and drag people into the freezing sea. Maybe the men had gone outside to secure equipment damaged in the storm, or check on something, and were taken before they could get back inside. Others think maybe there was a landslide or cliff collapse that buried them silently. The island's rocky edges are unstable, and a sudden shift could have swallowed them whole without leaving obvious signs. Some believe a terrible accident inside the lighthouse itself forced them outside into the storm, unprepared to fire. Gas leak or structural failure, but there's no solid evidence for this. And then there are darker theories. Some whisper about foul play. Could one of the men have turned on the others? Or was there an unknown visitor involved? Others hint at something more supernatural. Curse on the island, restless spirits, or the sea itself taking the men as a sacrifice. These ideas are only speculation, but they add to the mystery's chilling aura. Today, the lighthouse still stands. It's automated now, no longer needing keepers. But people are still drawn to the Flannan Isles, those curious visitors, mystery hunters, and those who feel the pull of the unknown. They come from all over the world to see the lonely lighthouse and try to imagine what those last days were like. The silence, the storm, the cold, the fear that the sea might take you without a trace. The story of those 3 men has captured the imagination of many, even inspiring a Netflix film that brings this mystery to a wider audience. While the movie adds fictional elements, the core tragedy and haunting questions remain very real. The mystery leaves us with unsettling thoughts. How quickly can isolation and a relentless storm strip away the familiar and leave only silence? And perhaps most terrifying, how can something or someone simply vanish, leaving no answers behind? Their disappearance remains a sober reminder of how vulnerable we are in the face of nature's power and isolation. And to this day, over a century later, the mystery of what happened to Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur remains unsolved. No answers, no closure, secrets that may never be fully uncovered. If you ever visit that part of Scotland and stand near the lighthouse, it's hard not to think about those men,